Hi Colin, this is a video to try to demonstrate planishing dents, the curve of a bell here, which I think is going to be, well, for me it's always been the trickiest dent removal method. This is a con director, good example because it's big, easier to see in the video. I've already started taking dents out here. Somebody else has taken some dents out here by cramming a ball in there and stretching it out. So this is a good example. I'll show working out a little dent here is the next one, and then I'll jump over to here in a few minutes. This is even stretched on the back side a little bit. That's what I often complain about, someone cramming balls in and stretching out. Con director, maybe it's not too important, but should always try. Anyway, I try to locate the steel ball with the magnet. There's a dent right there. The ball is right on the dent. You can hear when the hammer hits the ball, it's a completely different sound than when it misses. I force the ball a little bit, not too much to stretch it, and by pulling the ball in and out, I'm moving it and tapping on it, kind of following it around. And I need to go to the next size ball before I'll get to that little dent. I'm hoping you can see it on the video. Lubricating with ivory soap or some other lubricant helps a lot. Move it around without so much jerking. Again, pulling and pushing, I'm moving the dent ball back and forth a little bit. And as I mentioned in the article, sometimes you need to go back to the next smallest dent to get the best job possible. I'm kind of just getting past that dent now. I want to go to the next larger ball first. And the idea of planishing is just like burnishing, when you're constantly moving with the brass trapped between the two steel tools. You're doing the same thing with the ball on the inside, the hammer on the outside. And that dent there is most of the way out now. I spend at least a few more minutes planishing to get it as smooth as possible. And like I say, I still have to go back down to a smaller dent ball to clean up this spot here that I missed. But the outside here is pretty good now. Maybe a little bit of a high spot. Now I'll go ahead and jump to the smallest ball, as I mentioned, just to be thorough. So that's actually 2 sizes down from where I just was. Hope you're following this. I'm not a good teacher, just trying to demonstrate. Okay, the memory card ran out, so here we go again. I don't remember exactly where I was in my discussion, but working out this spot, a few dents, and trying to shrink down some of the stretched metal using planishing. Again, forcing the ball back and forth and following it with the hammer. Try to hit on top of the ball as much as possible. Sometimes you wonder, where the heck is that ball? You know, when you have most of the time the tubing is oval around the curve of the bell. So when you're on the outside or inside, you're working against the high spot of the metal, if that makes sense. But eventually this dent here will smooth out a bit. Then I'll move on to the next ball. As you get older, you'll realize you'll need reading glasses or some kind of magnifier. I'm sure you're too young now, but I remember as early as my mid-30s, I was already getting advantage from magnifiers when doing close-up dent work like this. So the stretch part is still there, but the dents past it are mostly gone now. Got a little ways to go. I'll try to bring down the stretched out high spots a little bit more. And keep planishing. You know, eventually you'll be able to get all this nice and smooth. Or if you're just repairing an instrument and maintaining the finish, this is kind of what it's going to look like. You're going to see a lot of hammer marks and stretched lacquer and such. Silver plated instruments, you can hit it with the buffer with rouge and clean it up a little bit, but you don't want to go too hard. You don't want to go through the silver. If you're going to refinish it, you might sand it very lightly. You don't want to take too much metal off, because hopefully it's a good quality instrument and you're going to want it to last the player's lifetime and hopefully beyond. Okay, next I want to show you planishing on the straight part of the bell just as you enter the curve. I prefer these barrel-shaped balls screwed onto the end of a rod. You may not be able to find these today. I think these used to be sold by Eric brand, but they're no longer available. So you might have to modify some other balls or make your own. But the round balls also work. These are the freeze balls that are available today, screw onto the same rod. And these will work the same way. Plus, as you get further into the curve, you need a round ball. And you can next go to a slight curve on the end of the rod and reach about as far as that guy had stretched the bell out. Not beyond that though. So this is the same idea where I'm going to be moving the bell back and forth and tapping, trying to hit the ball each hammer blow very lightly. And this technique's quite a bit easier than the ball on the cable or a loose ball. But still tricky, very tricky to get the metal really straight looking, but that's the goal. And you know, just keep practicing, and maybe by the time you're 50 or 60 you'll feel like you know what you're doing. Anyway, sorry about that bad joke. And you can use a fairly small ball for quite a length here, but there's always an advantage, and if you have a larger ball, go to the next ball that will fit and keep tapping. And with this method, it's easy to move the instrument and keep the hammer going the same direction, but that's just a matter of technique, and you can also be moving the hammer around the curve, whatever works for you. So you can see that dent, the large dent there, is pretty smooth now, and just keep going. There's another one right up against the brace, which without taking the brace off you'll never make perfect, but I get pretty darn close. And sometimes, which I think in this case, you don't visually see it first, but if that brace is pushed into the metal some, it'll prevent you from being able to planish successfully, because the tubing is no longer round to match the radius of the ball. So you got to go to the next smaller ball and do the best you can to make it look straight. That dent's pretty good. And just continue on your way. As I say, with a round ball, I would continue another 1/4 to 1/2 inch, and then a round ball on the end of a rod with a slight curve. You can reach a little bit further. This is the one that works for trumpets and cornets. Cornets, you can sometimes put a little more of a curve in there because the bell is shorter. I hope this video helps you a little. As always, go ahead and ask more questions once you've given it a try, and I'm sure it'll start to make some sense to you. It's frustrating, but the more you practice, the better results you'll get. In previewing this video, I noticed that I neglected to mention what I was doing. You probably could see it, though. Occasionally I was kind of pushing down. Like to get a dent started, you want to push the deepest part of the dent out. Push as hard as you think you can without stretching the metal. If the metal's fairly thick, you can push pretty darn hard and not stretch it, but a thin wall like on these condirectors is pretty easy to stretch. So anyway, even after I've planished a bit, I might still be pushing on it to round it out a little bit, and the process of planishing sometimes does push the metal lower than I want it, so I'm going to push it back up by pushing down. So that added to what I was already showing in this video. Hopefully will make it a little more of a complete idea. And again, go ahead and ask me more questions when you have them. I'll talk to you soon.